Okay, it's a couple minutes after, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Can everyone hear me okay? Can you just type in the chat or give me a shout out if you can hear me? Okay, good. If at any point I get muffly, let me know and I'll repeat or pause or whatever. We've had some sort of sound issues in this room lately, so just let me know. So thank you so much for joining. And thank you for your flexibility with the timing change of this call and the topic change. So as you know from previous emails, we're hoping to share with you a proposal that RJ and I have put together about what we hope will be a better way to support communications efforts across the system. So as usual, we will pause for questions, but you're also welcome to shout out questions if you have them, or use the chat box. And you're welcome and encouraged to use your video if you can. All right. So we'll start with some stuff you probably already know. So I'm Katie, and this is RJ, and we are part of the Extension Administration Communications team, but we've had some shifts in that team lately. So at the end of last year, Jen Holleran, who was previously the head of communications of the communications team, moved to a new position in a new department. So RJ is now, as of early this year, the team leader for the communications team. And he's taken on that position in addition to the writing, photography, videography, and university relations roles that he filled previously. So my position hasn't changed as of yet, but with this new proposal, when it takes place, I will likely take a more active role in executing this support structure. And then also another member of our team is Jeremy, and he's a videographer. He's half-time with us and half-time with 4 of the area ag teams. And videography is his thing. So he sometimes comes to these calls, but doesn't typically join in the same room. And then also we have proposed and are working on a position for a new media specialist or content strategist to join our team. So we are hoping to wrap up the description and get the job posted in the near future. And I also wanted to point to the fact that although communications is a separate unit in administration, we partner closely with IT on most of the projects that we work on. And these are the 3 people in IT that we work the most with. Heather, who's the team leader, Katina, who's the UI UX specialist, and Paul Treadwell, who's the distance learning specialist. And so for our discussion today, I thought it would be useful to start by really defining what we're talking about when we say communications. It can be used in a lot of different ways, of course, as you all know. But what we're really trying to talk about in this context is external communications. So that can include designing and creating newsletters and annual reports, organizing and promoting events, creating digital content, and managing web and social media presences. We know that this is something, these activities are often shared by a bunch of different folks in an office, and that they're all often one of many job requirements that we have. So having said that, that's kind of the definition we're working with. Do any of you see anything missing from this definition that you think should be added? Anything related to external communications that we're missing? All right, as we go on, if something crops up, just let us know and put it in the chat box or shout it out.
right. So I guess we wanted to also start this by kind of filling you in on, how this initiative that we're working on came about. This communications network that we're working on, and that we're doing a needs assessment for right now. And it really started as a way to kind of connect communicators across the system, and looking for ways to better leverage our existing resources and introduce new ones. This particular model that we're working on was born out of started with data that was gleaned from the strategic planning process, where folks indicated that there were gaps in how we with Extension Administration were supporting the system, and how the system was kind of functioning in its communications role. So, that was one big part of, the needs assessment. Another has been the conversations we've had with communicators, conversations we've had in these communicators calls. We've met with a lot of folks in one-on-one, or had calls with them to kind of talk about, what we're missing, what we can do better at in supporting you all. And through it all, it's been an ongoing needs assessment, and it's a process that will continue even through the initial implementation stages. And we're hoping to give you folks a bigger voice in how we do this and going forward. And in doing this needs assessment, we've kind of come up with a list of challenges that we've kind of identified throughout the system. It's obvious in talking to people that there's really no two communication specialists in the system that have the exact same responsibilities and capacity to do what we do. For example, we have some counties who do have dedicated communications professionals who kind of handle every aspect of that organization's outreach efforts. But more often than not, we have counties that have people that are doing part-time communications work in addition to all the other hats that they're wearing. And so, they're expected to fill this really big communications role with a small part of their time, which, that leads to more and more challenges. So we're trying to figure out ways that, we can kind of overcome some of those challenges. And, with this diversity, we've also noticed that, yes, we are all different. We all have different responsibilities, but there are some kind of fundamental things that we all do that are very similar. We're all pretty much doing annual reports. We're all probably handling social media accounts. We're all doing newsletters. And all probably promoting events. Like, those are kind of things that everybody does. So we're trying to figure out ways that maybe we can leverage resources to do better at those and be more efficient, because we do realize everybody is spread pretty thinly. And then there's a list of challenges there, and with those challenges, we also have kind of found that maybe the leadership at Extension Administration doesn't exactly understand what you're dealing with, and what goes on in the front lines of communications with the counties. So, that's a real big challenge. We're trying to inform our process up here and inform, how we respond to your needs. And in a lot of cases, we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants. And this, having a structure in place, will help us be more reactive and be more tactical with our reaction. And in regard to storytelling, we're hoping we can have improved communication channels to open up new and better ways for us to collaborate with you all on the production and amplification of stories, whether that's articles, videos, social media hits, that sort of thing, talking about the impacts that your counties are making on the people that you're serving. So we're hoping that this can help us take those next steps forward. What types of solutions are we looking at to, that this structure we think will facilitate? And for one, we'd like to introduce a series of branded templates that improve the efficiency and consistency of our deliverables. While we all have different day-to-day approaches on how we do our work, like we said, many of those challenges are similar. Some of those fundamental deliverables are, the newsletters, the annual reports, and we're in conversations right now to develop template style tools. I mean, we've had communicators calls about that, and we've taken next steps to start those conversations with a designer to look at ways that we can meet those needs. But going forward, we'll want to use this structure to even better inform, the solutions that we come up with. The same holds true for social media. We're always looking for best practices and time management advice for, sharing our stories on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And this network will provide opportunities for us to have more interactive, more intimate, and more fluid conversations about that big piece of our communications lives. Excuse me. And along those lines, we also have some very talented people out in the system who are doing various aspects of communications work across a lot of disciplines. And the kind of network we're looking at will create a kind of regular forum where we can access those talents. If you're good at something, you can share, what you know with others that might be less good at it, to overcome gaps in our own training and expertise. That's, we have great designers, we have great photographers. Let's, learn from those folks and give them a platform to share what they know. And we also have a lot of good resources on campus that Katie and I can connect folks to. We can make those introductions to folks who are handling social media on campus, folks who are doing media relations. That's a good example is the Cornell Media Relations team has done a lot of work to connect with newspapers in small and medium-sized markets across the state. They have a newsletter that goes out weekly that we've been able to tie into to promote some of the great stories of extension that are going on, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger. So we're looking to leverage those relationships and bring them closer to you so that you can kind of have direct straight line access to them.
Okay, so the network that we're talking about, this is kind of a simplistic drawing of what we hope it will look like. So each of the red dots is kind of a what we're calling a regional communications team. So as you might notice, these are the SBN regions, plus New York City area teams and CALS and CHE. This isn't obviously like a finalized map of what the regions would be, but these are just the various groups that we've identified to be a part of this network. And there are three main ways that we would like to facilitate this network. First, through monthly Zoom calls, also through offline conversations, which we'll talk more about in a minute, and through quarterly trainings. And we'll talk about each of those three in a bit more detail. So first, the monthly Zoom meeting. So the idea is that each of these regional teams would meet once a month, and that I would facilitate those meetings. So that includes scheduling, ensuring that everyone's invited, welcoming new people to the group, creating agendas and distributing agendas, taking minutes, following up on any things that need to be followed up on during after the group meetings, and things like that. So the meetings themselves, the topics and conversation would be driven by the folks on the team, with me as a facilitator to keep things moving forward. And the idea is that at least one person from every association or team or department or program would be a part of one of these regional teams, at least one person. So this communicators list that we're all on has at least one person from every association and area team. So that could be a place to start And we're also working with the EDs to help identify potentially additional people that might want to be part of this network. And so the purpose, as RJ mentioned, is really just to try to work on those solutions that we outlined before, and work together to work together on those solutions. So sharing resources and expertise and collaborating during the calls, and then opening channels for collaborating between the calls as well.
Right, and these calls will kind of be similar to what we're doing right now with the monthly communicator call. It'll just be smaller, more intimate groups. It will be more interactive. So that's kind of the idea, is just to have something that we'll all get more out of. Mm-hmm. And then in addition to the calls, the offline conversations, we want those to be more fluid too. So it's not just you have a call once a month and then you don't talk to anybody until the next call. We want to keep it more fluid. We want to introduce maybe some software tools that Katie and I are investigating right now. One is Trello, which is, we're finding a nice tool for coordinating projects, activities, sharing story ideas. And within Trello we're using Slack as well in concert with it to kind of chat back and forth, not flood ourselves with emails while we're discussing a project, where we can just keep going back and forth as like with a chat. I mean, I don't know, have any of you used these tools before, Trello or Slack? Not yet. Great. Yeah, so some people have experience with it, others don't. Katie and I are just kind of starting our journey with it, so we're kind of excited to see where we can go with it, especially with just keeping the conversations going instead of letting things drop and trying to pick it up cold a month later. Yeah. And of course, emails. I mean, we all get too much email, but it's okay. It's still an effective tool, so that'll always be kind of a part of our flow.
Charlie says, what about Stammer? Not familiar with that. Would you share a bit about what it is? If you have a mic. Oh, Yammer, sorry. Yeah. Yammer's an option. I guess we didn't really consider it.
Yeah. I mean, we're open to anything right now. Yeah. This is really, like we said, this is all part of a needs assessment and trying to inform what we do next. So we're open to anything. Have you had good experiences with Yammer, Charlie?
I know I'm in some Yammer groups, but I haven't seen a whole lot of engagement from the groups I'm in. So I think we will explore Yammer and see what sort of stuff.
Sorry, I couldn't speak before. I'm on my cell phone because we lost power just now. But Yammer, I know other departments in Cornell use it. I haven't done too much with it, but I know it's connected to all the different office sharing suites and everything, which might work well because I think we can plug it into a SharePoint and everything. But that would be a question for CIT, I guess, to see what we could actually get access to.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll look more into that and into other university-supported programs.
We were kind of drawn to Slack a little bit because it seems like an industry standard, but it also is integrated into the Trello tool. So that's kind of where we got started with it, and our friends down at CALS are using it too. So hopefully we can get plugged in with them and they can help us.
Is that something that they pay for, or is there a free for nonprofit type thing?
There's a free version and a paid version. we figure out the payment situation on our end.
Yeah, we're free right now.
We're using the free version right now.
Yeah, and then something to explore, which is brand new, is the Facebook business feature, which I think they're trying to copy Slack and everything. I don't know how good it is because it's brand new, but that's something we could look into.
Great. Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have any other tools that they use that they think might be useful for us to adopt or research? And the quarterly training. So they would be sort of similar to these calls in that everyone would be invited, all the communicators, all the regional teams, as well as anyone in the system that wants to join in. But they would be less frequent, so we're thinking quarterly and sort of a more formal training, professional development opportunity. And we're hoping that those trainings would be informed by the needs that we discover from the regional team meetings, which are each month. Okay, so that was our long-winded explanation of what we've been working on. We were hoping to open it up to questions from you that you might have from reading the proposal that we circulated. So we'd like to start with those and then perhaps move into the questions on the screen. Oh yeah, you were. Sorry,
Oh, my turn.
Stole your thunder.
Yeah, so the questions, we're wondering from your perspective, what are your association's biggest needs around external communications? Feel free to shout them out, type them in the chat box. Or what areas, specific communication needs or gaps you think that we at Extension Administration can help address? So explaining what CCE is to the public at events. Yeah, we're working on that. That's a big part of what we're doing, and we talked about providing resources. One of those resources is, we're working on banners and that type of thing, other storytelling tools. But it's also something that we would like the groups to come up with specific examples of what they would want or need, and we can help them meet those needs.
Yeah, that's definitely something we hear a lot, is the kind of sharing what CCE is a challenge, but it's a challenge for us as well because you guys know better what CCE is. So yeah, I guess we're hoping that these groups will help, that working together we can come up with something that makes sense on a broader scale.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, one thing that we are working on with the University Brand Communications Department is an explainer video on what CCE does that hopefully we can share with all of you, and hopefully they'll allow for some customization that you can implement for your social media channels. But that's one thing. Another thing is we're working on banners that might be available to every county as well. We have a few.
One thing that I know my whole region has issues with is, of course, getting coverage, but the bigger thing is that our communities are so separate from one another, the different program areas, that they don't know what the other programs are or that they even exist. one thing that would be really helpful is I've always tried to highlight the programs that overlap between program areas. So like our master gardeners do a lot of school gardening, and that way we can talk about not just the horticulture, agriculture, but also the 4-H youth. If we had a lot of nice content that talked about those kind of overlapping projects, that's something that I think might help us communicate that we do more than just what people know us for. So I don't know if there's anything that can be done with that, but that's something that I know the communicators in the Hudson Valley area have been trying to come up with ways that, of course, aren't expensive to communicate the whole brand of extension and all of the work we do.
Great, yeah, good point. Thank you, Charlie. So other ideas in the chat box: sourcing and sharing content from the system. So I think like that means between each other sharing content. It's a really good point.
Yeah, that's a big part. We think these groups will unlock some of those conversations where, you know, we have created a multimedia tool that houses a lot of the videos that we have and that you all can access and upload to. I think we're almost, that's ready.
We are hoping a student will help us organize our photos.
Yeah. So
we have 2 students that are coming to work with us, and that's top on their list to help us organize.
We're almost to the finish line on a couple of
Yeah.
tools like that where there will be actual deliverable content that you will be able to access. But also, like with these conversations in these smaller groups, we'll know what we're all working on. We'll know what's available, and we can share it. Have awareness.
Yeah, I guess the benefit of me as the facilitator is that I can help make those connections too. And I think one of the cool things about Slack, if we decide to adopt that, is that you can kind of segment off by different chat groups, by like interest area and things like that. So that might be another way that we can kind of facilitate interest-based content groups. If that makes sense. And then, yeah, so competing with other nonprofits for local media coverage. Yeah.
Well, that's, I mean, like as I mentioned, the university media relations team has a lot of experience kind of working with newspapers, knowing what they want, what kind of, what radio stations want, what kind of story ideas they're looking for when you're pitching them. So like if we can bring those people into our conversations, and they already have a lot of contacts too. I mentioned the newsletter that goes out once a week. Hopefully we can take that thing over almost and have university relations delivering our assets to these newspapers, so the newspapers know, like, we have these photos from Extension, we have these sound bites from Extension that you can weave into an article, and that would, if the newspapers can see that it's easy uptake for them to run this stuff, then maybe they'll be more apt to take it.
So advertising to a variety of audiences that use different vehicles. Definitely a challenge for everyone, I think, that works in the online world. Yeah, so I think, Barbara, you're highlighting something that's a challenge that we'll need to dig in together a little bit more deeply to figure out how to solve, and maybe university relations can help us with that, but maybe it's something we figure out together as well.
Right.
So I guess now the big question, even though it's, early stages and we're still gathering information, does what we've proposed, this communications network, does it sound like something that will meet your needs? And if so, what are the things that you think will be key for making it successful? And if you think it's not exactly what's needed, what do you think would work better than what we're proposing? Those are a lot of questions. Feel free to answer any one of them. Oh boy.
Sandy is a fast typer.
You are.
Yeah, Sandy, the scenario you're laying out about kind of reaching across county lines. Would be useful. Yeah, that's a scenario we've kind of, we see as being a benefit, but it's also one that we're really interested in hearing from other associations to see if they feel the same way about, promoting a program within a neighboring county that doesn't offer the same kind of programming. I think to us, there seems like opportunities to do that, but it's, that's kind of a better question for you all, whether those are the types of opportunities you would be looking for.
Yeah, the question about participation is a good one. I hope that we'll be able to get many folks interested, but even if we start small, hopefully we can grow over time and add people to our team, to our group.
Yeah, and we're just hoping that they'll be more interactive, so that more people feel comfortable kind of speaking up and asking questions and sharing concerns, that sort of thing. We don't want it to be just, these monthly communicator calls are great, but it doesn't, we don't feel like every voice is heard. So we're kind of hoping to open up channels for that to happen. And if we see that we're not married to any idea that it needs to be these tiny groups, like that's just kind of where we're starting. But perhaps it grows to where groups are larger with 10, 20 people involved. I'm not against that. We're just kind of, this is a starting point, basically.
Okay, so there's a need for funding for tools that we use. Track all the moving parts. Okay, this is all great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah. So for the proposed network requiring a lot of staff time each month, we're kind of hoping that it will, as far as the meetings, it will essentially be replacing this meeting, not replacing it, but it would be replacing this meeting. So it would really be one call a month, and then the back and forth would be kind of as it works for the communicator schedules. It wouldn't be a requirement. It would be more to make your lives easier, we hope. Answer questions as they come up. You know, we're not trying to add more tools or responsibilities, that's for sure.
So we've already kind of gotten into some of the barriers like time and need for funding and things like that. And also, we were hoping that you could share any additional barriers, maybe not big picture barriers, but barriers that you might face with making or being able to attend Zoom meetings from your office or your space.
Oh, and you know, one thing that we are looking at is, you know, how to put groups together. I mean, you know, Carla mentioned that perhaps identifying groups based on needs of the people in the group would be a way to kind of structure it. We're not, this SBN model that we've kind of been working with is a starting point. If there are other ways to organize, you know, we're open to them, and you know, we want to hear from you about how we can best put a structure together that will meet your needs.
Okay, so it sounds like finding a space that's quiet for participation might be a need, or is a need in many instances. Yeah, it's an interesting idea about topic segments. I wonder if we would be able to segment by topic. I like program area. I don't know that we all use the same program areas in reality. I know we do for reporting, but I don't know if they're used, if those are the way the programs are actually organized at the association level. I'm not sure. But that's a really interesting idea. And yeah, another idea of organizing based on similarities that's an interesting idea as well.
Yeah, I think we were just more focused on finding a space where everyone could be represented and have a place at the table. So, I mean, maybe people want multiple tables to go to. I mean, that's something to consider as well.
Yeah. Great. Should we move on?
Sure.
So we will also follow up with everyone on the communicators list with a survey. We really appreciate the feedback you gave us live today. That allowed us to kind of ask questions back at you so we understand what you're proposing and what some of the concerns or needs might be. But we'd like to also get the perspectives of as many people as possible. So we'll be sending out a survey with these questions out to the whole group. So for those of you that answered in the chat today, we can we'll have the transcript of the chat that we can incorporate with the survey, but please feel free to fill out the survey again. Maybe there's more detail you want to add or anything like that. So we'll be sending out that survey, and I'm actually going to put it in the chat too. Too many keyboards. And too many windows. Okay, so there's the.
Barbara was asking if we could send the PowerPoint along too.
Yes, the PowerPoint will be posted in the SharePoint team site after today's call, and I can also send it as an attachment in the email when I send out the survey. So what's next? The survey that will go out to all of you. So ongoing conversations, we hope that we can continue tweaking this proposal, talking with you about different alternate ways to organize groups, for example, and trying to come up with a network that really works and really begins to address some of the needs that we have. So we hope that you'll feel comfortable reaching out to us. Also in the survey we're sending out, there's an option for you to indicate if you want us to reach out to you. And we'll try to keep up, we will keep up this conversation and trying to figure out how to make this work. Our plan is to finalize our info gathering this summer and implement a structure by September. And then, as we've said, I think a couple times, the initial network that we come up with will really be a starting point, and we'll assess needs on an ongoing basis and adjust to kind of meet those needs, adjust to people's time and capacity, to really try to create something that's helpful and not just a, sort of an extra layer on your day. So those are our next steps. And anything I missed?
I think you got it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming today and for the detailed and insightful feedback that you gave us. It's really, really appreciated. I will follow up today with a link to the survey to the rest of the group and the slides as well. As I mentioned, please feel free to reach out to us anytime if you want to talk about this further or want to expand on any of the ideas you shared. We're really, really happy to get input and to have you help us with this process. So our emails are there, and you're always welcome to email the communications inbox too. I'm usually the one that checks it, but there's some other eyes on it in case I'm not here. So please stay in touch, and we hope that you'll be able to join us next month for a social media panel. We have, I think, about 6 people that have offered to be panelists that are going to share their expertise. And so please think of questions that you might have for them. It's going to be a great way for us to learn from each other how we're doing different things and how we address different challenges in social media management. So please consider joining us. It's going to be June 19th at 1 o'clock. It's a little bit early because the following week is the career explorations on campus that I'm participating in. So we've bumped it up a week, but we hope you'll be able to join. And thanks again. Anything else?
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You can say in the chat box, right?
Mhm.